was a period in my life when mornings didn't feel like beginnings, they felt like consequences. What I'm about to share with you today is a step by step formula for how to not be lazy, to find motivation, to discover discipline, and actually make a shift in your life. Now, if you don't, you can get often into that spiral feeling like you're ruining everything. Let me tell you how I did it and break it down for you. I would open my eyes, already tired. Not the kind of tiredness that sleep fixes, but the kind that sits behind your ribs, the kind that makes you feel like you're starting the day already behind. And before I even had the chance to breathe, my hand would reach for my phone. Not because I wanted to, not because I had something important to check, but because I had become a reflex. I have it carved so deeply into my nervous system that it felt automatic. And that's when the loop began. I would scroll, not with intention, not with curiosity, just a scroll. I'd scroll past people living lives I wasn't living, doing things I wasn't doing, becoming people I wasn't becoming. And I'd sit there, motionless, watching the world move while I stayed still. Minutes would dissolve into hours. And I tell myself the same lie every day. I'm just waking up. I'm just catching up. I'm just taking a moment. But the truth was harsher. I was hiding. I was avoiding the weight of my own potential. And every time I told myself tomorrow would be different, I believed it. I genuinely believed it. But tomorrow always arrived wearing yesterday's clothes. I feel the same heaviness in my chest, the same fog in my mind, the same quiet guilt whispering that I was meant for more, but somehow doing less. And the worst part wasn't the lack of progress. It was the feeling that I was slowly becoming a spectator in my own life. I wasn't lazy. I wasn't unmotivated. I wasn't broken. I wasn't overwhelmed. I was overstimulated, overloaded with noise, distraction, comparison, and the constant pressure to be on, to be better, to be more. Quick break, quick break. YouTube says that 80% of you guys watch the video but don't like or subscribe. Please do so. By doing that, you help this channel to grow and allow me to bring more content like this to you guys. Okay? And if you're listening to this, maybe you know exactly what I'm talking about. Maybe you have felt that strange mix of exhaustion and restlessness, but unable to rest, wanting to change, but unable to move, knowing what to do, but unable to start. It's a quiet kind of suffering, the kind that doesn't show on your face, but eats you from the inside. And for a long time, I thought the solution was motivation. I thought I needed a spark, a push, a moment of inspiration that would finally get me going. But motivation never came, not in the way I expected. What came instead was realizing that a small, almost insignificant step changed my life. What I needed was momentum. And momentum doesn't begin with a grand gesture. It doesn't begin with a perfect plan. It doesn't begin with a dramatic transformation. Momentum begins with something so small, so simple, so easy that your brain should not reject. For me, it started with lowering the bar, way lower. Not because I wanted to, but because I had nothing left to raise it with. I didn't work out. I just put my shoes on. I just opened a document. I didn't rebuild my life. I just took one step at a time. And that tiny step, so small, was the first crack of light in a very dark room. It didn't fix everything. It didn't transform me every night, but it did something far more important. It got me moving. And once you move, even a little, something inside you wakes up, something ancient, something powerful, something that remembers who you were before the noise, before the overwhelm, before that world convinced you that you needed to be perfect to begin. That's the moment everything started to change for me. But here's the part no one talks about. Lowering the bar isn't lowering your standard. It's lowering the resistance. It's giving yourself a chance to win again, to feel capable again, to feel like you can trust yourself again. But because every time you follow through at something small, you rebuild a relationship with yourself. You start to think, maybe I can rely on me. And that feeling, that tiny spark of self-trust is the beginning of everything. If you're stuck right now, if you're tired, if you're drowning in your own expectation, hear me clearly. You don't need a new life. You need a new first step. And it can be small, it can be simple, it can be almost stupid. Because the size of the step doesn't matter. What matters is that it breaks the cycle. And once the cycle breaks, even for a moment, you're no longer sinking, you're rising. And that's where everything began for me. Not with a breakthrough, not with a dramatic moment of clarity, but with a single tiny step that didn't scare me. A step so small, it almost felt like cheating, but it broke the cycle. It cracked the shell. It gave me just enough momentum to feel something I hadn't felt in a long time: possibility. And once you feel possibility, even for a second, you cannot feel otherwise. It lingers, it whispers you, it asks you, what if then happen again? But the truth is, I didn't understand at the time, momentum is fragile. It can spark in a moment and disappear just as quickly. And after that first tiny step, I realized something. If I didn't protect that spark, if I didn't feed it, if I didn't build something around it, it would fade. So I asked myself a question. How do I make something show up easier than staying stuck? And the answer wasn't motivation. It wasn't discipline. It wasn't willpower. It was something far more subtle, far more powerful, far more human. It was ritual. And that's where episode 2 begins here, right here.